In the darkness, there are things that never sleep. Things that linger just beyond the edge of the torchlight, listening to every careless laugh and every clink of coin. If you stare into the darkness long enough, you might swear it's staring back. Welcome to the Shadowdark. Alright, pair of jacks. Wait, what? No, we haven't started yet. What are you doing? I'm playing Read 'em and Weep, Full House. No, I didn't. Just wait until I tell you to. I know how to play. Go fish. No, that's not how you play. Where did you learn? I saw it on a YouTube video. King me. Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. Shadowdark is my latest tabletop RPG obsession. Since I got this, my D&D books have been collecting dust. Granted, that's what RPG books have always been best at, but mine have been extra dusty because I've switched over the games that I run to Shadowdark. I freaking love this game. Shadowdark basically is Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It plays more or less the same, but it removes a ton of the fluff and it gives more freedom to the game master and the player to be creative and tell a more interesting story. I've already made one video about Shadowdark where I explain what a tabletop RPG is, and I plan on making 3 more videos, including this one. This first is this video where I explain how to play as a player. And I'm also going to make a video about how to be a game master. And I'm going to make a video about how to make a character from scratch. I think those are like the 3 pillars of the game, and I really just want to make more Shadowdark videos because I'm just obsessed. And one rule of my channel is whatever TechDweeb is obsessed with, you gotta hear about. I mean TechDweeb. I'm TechDweeb today. So the video today is, I'm going to show you how to play Shadowdark, and I don't think it's going to take that long. It should be a quick video because I've taught people how to play this game in just like a couple minutes. It'll take me longer than a couple minutes here because I tend to ramble and goof around in my videos. Actually, let's get all our goofing out of our system before we start so we can stay focused. I put a section in my script where I was supposed to goof around here, and now I don't know what to do. So I have some bananas, which are kind of like a goofy food. And I have this tardigrade stuffy, which is kind of goofy, you know, to have a stuffy of a tardigrade. So I guess, hopefully this gets the goofiness out of me. I don't know. Let's assume you have a character to start. You can pick a pre-made character like the ones from the free Quick Start set, or you can generate a character on this website, Shadowdark Links. Just roll up a random level 1 character and you can re-roll it if you don't like what you got, or you can design it yourself here on this site. Or you can make a character from scratch using the rules in the book, but I'm not going to show you that here. But for now, let's just make a character for our little demonstration. Looks like we are a goblin thief called Yarpgit. That's Yep, that works. Yarpgit is a goblin thief, an exile of the Bog Snout pack that lives in the Bog Snout bog, which is technically not actually a bog but a swamp, but they're not too fussed about the nomenclature. Yarpgit is a chaotic thug looking to find his place in the world. He got word that a rare and very valuable jewel is being appraised at the jeweler's shop in the city, and he figured that maybe if he could put his best thievery skills to work, he'd be able to nick the treasure and use it to win back the favor of the princess. And by favor, I mean, well, you know what I mean. Yarpgit is a wanted man, or a wanted goblin, I guess, ever since that incident with the princess. So he decides he's going to avoid the busy streets and creep through the tunnels beneath the city to reach the jeweler's shop. Which brings us to the first mechanic that we need to talk about, the darkness. See, Shadowdark has dark in the name for a reason. Darkness is super important in Shadowdark. None of the player characters have dark vision, but all of the monsters do. So when you're in dark places, you need to have a light source. As Yarpgit heads down into the tunnel, he lights a torch to hold back the darkness. In Shadowdark, when you light a torch, you set a 1-hour timer. In real life, this is how long you have until the torch goes out. When it goes out, you're plunged into blackness and immediately things start creeping out from the dark to take advantage of your moment of vulnerability. So just make sure that you light a new torch before the first one goes out. I'm sure that no players would forget to do such an important thing, right? As Yarpgit moves through the tunnel every few rounds, the Game Master will do a random encounter check. That's the Game Master's job. Whenever the players are in a dangerous place, the Game Master throws fun, challenging monsters at them at random. But luckily, Yarpgit makes it through the tunnels without issue. He exits the tunnels into the dark alley behind the jeweler's shop. Shadowdark character sheets are pretty simple compared to most RPGs. You can see our name here, Yarpgit, and our class and ancestry. We're level 1 with 0 XP so far, and we'll come back to XP. And this stuff down here, title, alignment, background, and deity, this is role-playing stuff that you can integrate into your character's story if you want to, but it doesn't affect gameplay. This area here is your stats. Strength is how strong you are, dexterity is how quick and agile you are, constitution is how healthy and hardy you are, intelligence is knowledge and logic, wisdom is your senses and instinct, and charisma is about being likable or performing. As you play the game, you say the kinds of things that you want to do, and your game master might ask for a check of the appropriate stat type. In Shadowdark, there are generally a lot fewer checks than other role-playing games. Usually, if you want to do something, you explain what you want to do, and it just happens if it's possible. Checks are only called for if the outcome is uncertain. If a player says, "I searched the floor for traps," then they just find them. No check needed. So if Yarpgit wants to peek in the window of the jeweler's shop to see if there's any guards, the Game Master wouldn't call for a perception check. They would just say, you look inside and no, you don't see any guards. You just see the jeweler looking at a big gem on the table, and his assistant is taking notes beside him, and there's a customer sitting on a chair in front, waiting. But if the outcome isn't guaranteed, the GM will call for a check. For example, if Yarpgit wants to just bust down the door to the jeweler to get in, the Game Master will say, "Give me a strength check." The big number on the left is your base stat, and the little number on the right is the modifier. The modifier is based on the base stat, so usually you're just going to use the modifier to do stuff. When your Game Master calls for a check, they are going to pick a difficulty for the check based on the state of things. Busting down a wood door is easier than busting down an iron door, for instance. To do your check, you're going to roll your d20 dice and add the modifier. So busting down the door, we roll the d20, add our strength modifier, in this case it's 0, and let's say we got an 11 on the dice. If the Game Master set the difficulty at 15, he'd say, no, you tried to smash down the door, but you're not strong enough. Everyone inside heard you and is now on alert. But if he set the difficulty as a 9, you succeed. And the Game Master would say, yeah, you bust down the door and everyone inside stops what they're doing and stares at you standing in the doorway, which is what happens here in our little pretend game. Yarpgit moseys on into the shop and he's feeling all confident. He says in his goblin voice, "All right, sucker, hand over the jewel and no one gets hurt." However, unknown to Yarpgit, the jewelers were tipped off that he was coming. Guess that man from the tavern who was chatting with Yarpgit about his forthcoming fortune wasn't so trustworthy after all. The jeweler and his assistant stay as still as stone. However, the customer is actually a hired guard incognito. He's a trained fighter with a concealed sword. Let's take a break and have a quick look at our talents and spells. You can see the weapons that Yarpgit is trained to use, which is based on his class, the languages he speaks, and several special abilities granted by his class. Just a few. Shadowdark doesn't pile these on the way that like D&D does or whatever. And looky here, one of his skills is that he has keen senses, so he can't be surprised. Isn't that convenient? The disguised guard, attempting to catch Yarpgit off guard, suddenly spins around, pulling out his sword and swinging it in a wide arc. However, Yarpgit's keen senses don't fail him, and he's all too ready for any sneaky attacks. Since Yarpgit isn't surprised, this is the start of combat, so now we need to do initiative. And this is just a dexterity check. The Game Master will roll initiative for the bad guys, and the players will roll initiative for their characters. Let's say in this case that the guard with the sword gets the highest number, so they get to go first. Which brings us to HP and AC. HP is your hit points. That's your health. This is set when you make your character, and this increases as you level up. Our little Yarpgit doesn't have much by the way of health. Only 4 HP, so he could literally be killed with a single hit. And that's actually pretty normal in Shadowdark. It's a deadly game. AC is the armor class, and that's kind of misleading because it's not just about armor. Dexterity plays a role with this because even though you might not have armor, you can still be agile and dodge aside when someone tries to hit you. AC basically means how hard is it to hurt this guy, kind of thing. Yarpgit has a 14 AC, so that means that anyone attacking him has to get at least 14 on their attack roll. The guard swings at Yarpgit and he gets a 13 on the dice. However, he has +1 to attacks with his sword, which means his attack roll is 14. Yarpgit has a 14 armor class, which means that anything 14 or over hits. And yeah, Yarpgit is gonna get hit. And that means that we now need to roll for the damage. In Shadowdark, most damage rolls are just a straight dice roll. In this case, a sword is 1d6 and the guard deals 3 damage to Yarpgit. That brings Yarpgit down to 1 HP. Yikes. Things aren't looking good for Yarpgit, but let's see how this plays out. Now it's Yarpgit's turn, but he's not going to go for the guard. He's going to do a wall run and dodge around and do a backflip over the table and land beside the jeweler and attack him. Is Yarpgit allowed to do that? I mean, yeah, sure, why not? This isn't D&D. You don't have to debate for ages about what is technically an action or bonus action or reaction or whatever. None of that stuff. You do what you want to do as long as you're not doing anything beyond what your character could do. It's the rule of cool. For movement, Shadowdark does abstract movement distances. There's close, which is like beside you, and then there's near, which is like somewhere you can get to on your turn. Usually that's like 30 feet or like 6 squares on a grid, but like there's flexibility there. And far is like something you can see but would take more than a few turns to get to. The jeweler is near, so Yarpgit moves to him and tries to attack him. If we look at Yarpgit's attacks, we can see that he has a dagger and it says +3, 1d6. That means he has an attack bonus of 3 and he has a damage dice that's a d6. So let's do our attack roll. Rolling a d20, we get a 20 on the dice. That, my friends, is a critical hit. If you get a 20 on the dice, we call it a nat 20, which means that regardless of your attack bonus or the enemy's armor class, the attack hits. And you get to double the damage dice. So Yarpgit has +3 to his attack, but it's a crit, so that doesn't change anything. And now we roll the damage. 2d6. Let's say he gets a 2 and a 4 on those dice, so he deals 6 damage. The jeweler was just a little weakling and he only had 2 health. So the game master says Yarpgit attacks the jeweler and kills him. How does he die? That's right, when a player kills a bad guy, the player gets to describe what happens. However, in this case, Yarpgit doesn't actually want to kill anyone. In this game, when you drop someone down to 0 HP, you have the option to knock them out instead. So Yarpgit turns his dagger around and smacks the jeweler across the head, pummel first, and knocks him right out. He grabs the jewel and prepares to dive out the window. And then the game master would say, okay, but how much inventory space does Yarpgit have? Which brings me to the inventory. In Shadowdark, you don't have a carrying capacity. You have inventory slots, which depends on your strength. Every character gets at least 10, but if you have more than 10 strength, you can carry as much as your strength stat. Yarpgit has a strength of 11, so he can carry 11 things. Some things stack though. However, right now he has no extra space. He's all filled up. So Yarpgit will have to ditch something that he's carrying if he wants to pocket the jewel. In this case, Yarpgit is just going to drop one of the 2 lanterns that he's holding. Why does he have 2 lanterns? I don't know. That's just what the character creator gave us to start with. You don't need an action to do stuff like swapping items or drawing weapons or whatever. Easy stuff like picking up a jewel and dropping a lantern, you can just do that stuff. No action needed. But not only does Yarpgit have the jewel now, he also gains XP. In Shadowdark, you gain experience through getting treasure. Yarpgit doesn't realize it yet, but this gem that he nicked is a very valuable gem, and it may or may not have magical properties. So he gets 3 XP for getting this. He needs 10 total XP to reach level 2. I'm not going to explain how to level up right now. It's easy, but this video is gameplay focused. I mean, maybe I'll save explaining the leveling up for my character creation video. So in turn order, the guard is gone, and Yarpgit is gone, and the jeweler is knocked out, so he's not getting a turn. And now it's the assistant's turn. And unbeknownst to Yarpgit, this assistant is actually a novice mage, and he has some magic spells. I guess this jeweler picked some good co-workers. The assistant is going to attempt to cast Magic Missile against Yarpgit, which is, conveniently enough, the perfect time to talk about how magic works. Magic in Shadowdark is actually very simple. Instead of keeping track of mana or spell slots or whatever, all you need to do is attempt to cast the spell, and if you succeed, the spell goes off, and if you fail, it doesn't. and you'll lose access to that spell until you take a rest. And if you roll a 1 on the spell check, you critically fail and something bad happens, depending on which magic class you are. The wizard has to roll on the spell mishap table, for instance. So the wizard assistant is going to need to roll a spellcasting check and add their spellcasting modifier. And the difficulty of the check is 10 plus the spell's level. Magic Missile is a level 1 spell, so the difficulty is 11. And one unique thing about this spell is that it's always rolled with advantage, which means you roll 2 d20s and take the higher number. The spellcasting wizard assistant rolls a 6 and a 14. Plus his modifier of 2, so he gets 16, and that's more than enough. His magic missile flies out and hits Yarpgit. Now we roll the damage, which is 1d4, and 3. That's enough to reduce Yarpgit's HP to 0, which means that he's dying. Perfect segue into talking about death rolls. Yarpgit is down, which means that we need to roll 1d4 and add his constitution modifier to that to figure out how many rounds he's gonna live for. 1 on the dice. And he has +1 to constitution, so that's only 2 rounds. Let's do our first roll. Oh, okay, 18 on the dice, which is high, but Yarpgit actually needs to get a natural 20 on the dice to get up. Someone else could stabilize him and stop him from dying, like if he had a friend there, they could do that, but none of these guys are too interested in doing that. Let's do one more death roll. Dang, that's not a 20. And with that, Yarpgit is dead. Literally, no last-second divine intervention, no heroic plot armor. Shadowdark is a deadly game. And as a player, you really need to make sure that you're avoiding deadly situations and solving problems by thinking outside the box rather than expecting the dice to save you. However, even though Yarpgit didn't make it, the player playing Yarpgit isn't out of the game. They just roll up a new character and get back into the game. As a player, you basically have infinite lives in the game. It's super quick to make a character, and with Shadow Darklings, it's literally seconds. I just jumped on there to grab a new random character, and it looks like now I'm Finnel, the elf priest. So how does he fit into the story? Well, I don't know. Maybe he was friends with Yarpgit. Or maybe he's a close associate of the jeweler. Or maybe he's trapped inside the magic gem that Yarpgit was trying to steal. Shadowdark is a shared storytelling experience, so it's up to the player and the game master to come up with how the characters in the world are connected to the story. There's so much more that we could get into. We didn't talk about spending money or carousing or overland travel, doing quests, the different monsters or magic items, potions and scrolls and wands. It's a big game, but none of it is complex. Most of it is clearly spelled out in the book and you can just learn as you go. But now you have the basics. I think the knowledge that this video has squished into your adorable little brain should be enough to get you playing your first game and not making a fool of yourself. At least not more than usual. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful or at least entertaining. Stay tuned for more videos like this. It's a kind of a side tangent project when I talk about tabletop RPGs, but I'm going to be making more videos, so stay tuned. But that'll do it from me for today. I'm Dweeb. Thanks for watching, and now a moment of silence for Yarpgit.